Okay, big tool is ahead of us. It's time we cover Nmap. Now, what is Nmap? Well, Nmap is shortened for Network Mapper, and it's a tool used to pretty much map the network or discover open ports on the target system that you're scanning. With those open ports, we can also discover which services are running on those open ports, and Nmap can go as deep as discovering which version of a service is running on which open port on the target system. Now, Nmap does have some other options as well, but as we did mention in the previous video, we're here to only discuss the basics of Nmap, and if you'd like to dive deeper into Nmap, you can take a look at our Nmap cheat sheet, or you can also learn it from the Nmap manual. We already know how to open the manual. You just type man and then the tool name, and it will open the manual for that tool. However, we are not going to read it right now. We are more interested in running the help menu of Nmap, and this will be a shorter version of what are the possibilities with this tool. As we can see, there are a lot of options that we can run. If you'd like, read through them and see what are the possibilities, but right now we're going to perform the very basic scan with Nmap just to see what output do we get and what does this tool do for us. The very basic scan would be typing the Nmap and then the IP address of our target. And as we can see, it finished in less than a second, and this is the output that we get. We scanned our OWASP virtual machine, and the only output that we get is which ports does our machine have open. And there are quite a few of them. So we have the 22 port open, which is running the service of SSH. We got our website hosted on port 80 since it's running HTTP over there. And as well, we got our website on port 443, which is running HTTPS. But we do also get some other ports open that are running different services, and that is also why Nmap is useful. Perhaps sometimes once you're scanning a website, you will discover other ports that are hosting other services, even though the website might not have bugs itself. Maybe the machine hosting the website has other services that are vulnerable to a different attack. But that is out of the aspect of this course. However, you can use Nmap to determine that, and you will use Nmap a lot if you perform penetration testing. So this very basic scan gave us the output of all of the open ports on Nmap, and it also gave us that it found 991 closed ports. Now, why is that? Well, Nmap by default scans most known 1000 ports. And out of those 1000 ports, 991 were closed, while as these 9 ports are found to be opened. If you want to dive even deeper into these open ports and perhaps you want to discover a version of a service that is running on this open port, you can run this command, nmap-sv, and then the IP address of your target. In our case, I'm using again OWASP BWA, and if I run it, it will take longer to finish than this scan. However, it should also take about a few seconds. Let's wait for it to finish. And this is the output that we get right now. You will notice that it's quite larger than the previous one, since besides getting the same output, which is which ports are open, we also get this column right here that says version. It gave us the version of each service that it is found on open port. For example, if we take a look at SSH running on port 22, we get the exact SSH version that this target machine has, as well as we get the exact Apache version that is being hosted on port 80 for HTTP. And we do see that it does match with the output that we got, if you remember, from our WhatWeb tool. Remember that we got Apache 2.2.14. Well, Nmap gave us the same result, so we can pretty much determine that this is the correct output and that the target machine is indeed running Apache 2.2.14. We also get the versions for other ports as well. So this is pretty useful information. And we can also see that apparently HTTP is being served on these ports as well. So it's not only port 80. We also have HTTP running on port 8080, which is running Apache Tomcat, and we got HTTP being served on port 8081, which is running Jetty. Now this is something that we didn't know before. And now if we go, for example, to our Firefox and we try to visit our OWASP virtual machine on port 8081, so let's type it right here, 8081. Wow, so we do open another web page. This is a web page that we didn't see before. Since by default every browser opens a page on port 80, since that is the usual HTTP port. If we wanted to, for example, open a web page on a different port, we need to manually type it like this. And we do open another web page. Awesome. Let's see what else do we get. So pretty much that would be about it, all of this services version. And another thing that I want to show you that is possible with Nmap is to use something called scripts. Now, Nmap can also try to find vulnerabilities. It can be used as a vulnerability scanner. How can we do that? Well, we can type something like this, nmap --script, then we type vuln, and then the IP address of our target. Now, this will take a little bit longer to finish because it does perform all the scripts that are used for discovering vulnerabilities. And while this is running, let me show you this website called nmap.org, where you can pretty much read anything about Nmap that you like. You can go to this page and you can also find the manual here, read all of the available options with Nmap, read what it is used for in case you're interested in this. Awesome. Let's see if our scan is finishing. We did get some output right here. And by the way, you can check out the percentage of your scan by typing upper arrow, and it will tell you at what percentage is it at. So let's wait for it to finish. Okay, and this did last much longer than I thought. It took quite a few minutes, but it's finally over. And here is all the output that we get. If we scroll all the way up, let's start from the beginning. It's going to run the scripts per port. So it determines first which ports are open. Then for each port, it runs all of the scripts that are used for discovering vulnerabilities. As we can see, for HTTP port 80, it ran first the script HTTP cross-domain policy. Down here, it tells us that the state is vulnerable, so perhaps we found our first vulnerability. Keep in mind that sometimes Nmap does know to give false positives, and I will show in just a second why. Let's go all the way down. We got CSRF script running right here. It tells us found the following possible CSRF vulnerabilities. So this is not really 100%, it just says that it could be possible on these links. And by the way, if you don't know what these vulnerabilities are, CSRF, XSS, don't worry, those are all the bugs that we will cover once we get to the bug bounty, and trust me, we're getting there quick. Nonetheless, let's just go through this. Here is the HTTP DOM-based XSS, and let's see right here. Found the following indications of potential DOM-based XSS. That's interesting. On this page, let's go down here. We got the SQL injection script running. It found the possible SQL injection queries on these links right here. So this is all the links that we would want to test in a real penetration testing attack. Down here we got HTTP stored XSS script, and here it says couldn't find any stored vulnerabilities. And that is false. I assure you that on the page or on OWASP, we will get certain pages that do have HTTP stored XSS. So you can never fully trust what you get from a certain tool. That's why we will be discovering all of our bugs manually and not with tools. So you can scroll all the way down and check out all the other scripts that Nmap ran and what are the results. Or if you don't want to run these type of scans, which you use every single script to discover vulnerabilities, you can, for example, copy a script name, which you can also find in the nmap.org website. You can find all of the scripts that the Nmap has, and you can run a single script by typing nmap --script, then the script name, and then your target IP address. and it will only run this one script. In case you're trying to target just one vulnerability, you can simply just run just one script that discovers that vulnerability and see what the Nmap will tell you. Once again, if I'm not mistaken, this HTTP stored XSS will give us the result that there is no such thing on the OWASP virtual machine. However, we will see later that stored XSS does indeed exist on our OWASP virtual machine. And here is the response. So this is what we get, open ports, and on the HTTP ports, because XSS is a website vulnerability, it tells us that it couldn't find any stored XSS vulnerabilities on both HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, nonetheless, these are some of the basics of Nmap and how you can use Nmap. Now, I strongly recommend that you dive deeper into this tool, and we will be leaving some resources for you to take a look at in order to learn Nmap, since it can be useful not only for website penetration testing, but for penetration testing and ethical hacking in general. This is one of the most important tools that hackers use. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, you will have resources where you can learn more about this tool, and in the next video, right before we get into Burp Suit, there is one more tool that we need to cover, which is called Nikto. See you in the next video.